All right, good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. in New York City and 1 a.m. in Slovenia in Europe. I am Sam Kimball from Crush Wine Experiences, formerly New York Wine Events. Thank you so much for joining us on virtual day trip to wine country presented by Citi. We are here for a tasting of the #1 wine brand coming out of Slovenia, the #1 Slovenian wine in the US, which are great value wine selections. We're talking about delicious, high quality wines that retail for under $10. The winery in question is Avia Wines, and they have 8 wines that have been awarded Best Buy by the wine enthusiasts. So these are really serious, great wines. Count them, 8 wines, Best Buys on the wine enthusiast. So we are going virtually to Slovenia, to the Colio wine region, which is actually encompasses parts of Italy and parts of Slovenia. It's an absolutely perfect place for grape growing. Slovenia, as many of you may know, lies in the heart of Europe, where the Alps meet the Mediterranean and go down to the seaside plain. Slovenians refer to their country as the green treasure of Europe because it's small, it's unbelievably beautiful, and it's green. The country measures just under 8,000 square miles in area, and it's home to 2 million inhabitants who are wonderful, sincere, hospitable people. You got to visit. It's a great place. Our guest is going to talk a little bit more about that and give us a sense of what that's like. Slovenia, as you may know, also has an exceptional number of top athletes, world level athletes, and a wealth of cultural creativity. Slovenia was once part of the former Yugoslavia, and actually the Avia part of the name Avia Wines originates from that Yugoslavia name of the former country. Slovenia became an independent sovereign nation in 1991 after the Iron Curtain came down, and the country may not have a majestic history like many other larger European nations because it's only been in its current constitution for 30 years or so, but its past is nevertheless very, very important. For many, it is surprising that such a small nation without kings or a famous military or leaders of its own could even form, survive, and carve out an independent path. But it has certainly done that in the short time since it became an independent sovereign nation. And this is probably the result of the culture, which is very, very strong, the common language that they've had in the area for centuries. And the wines. The wines are amazing, structured, elegant wines. The Colio region is iconic and legendary, and they prove that Slovenia has a place, a very, very serious place on the world stage for wine, making amazing white wines and some delicious reds. The Colio region, which we'll talk more about, you'll hear about it a bunch here, is ideal for growing grapes because the vineyards are on hillsides and they have very, very large diurnal swings in temperature. So the day and night temperatures are very wide apart. You could have a very hot summer day and a 40-degree Fahrenheit drop at night. The stats are Slovenia produces, it has more than 28,000 wineries and produces 80 to 90 million liters of wine annually. And about 75% of that wine is white wine. So I want to welcome everybody for tuning in. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us. I see we have folks from Chicago, Pennsylvania, Long Island, Nantucket, a great group, a varied group geographically. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I would like to take a look briefly at the map of where we're headed, and then we're going to take a look at a video that's very interesting that gives you a sense of the place. So first, let's take a look on the map where we're going. So if you can see in my background over my shoulder, you can see the the country of Italy, a large, long peninsula that looks like a boot. And up in the top of where the Adriatic Sea meets the continental part of Europe there, you'll see a red map pin. That is actually the Brda region of Slovenia, and that's in the heart of the Kolio wine growing area. Absolutely gorgeous place. As you can see from these backgrounds, I just did a different background. Steep hillsides covered in vines. Absolutely gorgeous and a dramatic landscape. So what I want to do now is show you a little quick video, about 60 seconds, all about the Brda region in Slovenia, and that's where the wines are from. So bear with me a second. We'll get this teed up, and we'll play some video.
Deep in us, impressions rise up, and they conjure up unforgettable experiences. Brda. Hillsides basking in the sun and clear views are under our feet. Unveiling the rolling greenery, the foliage of picturesque vineyards and blossoming orchards. Patches of silvery olive trees, mysterious valleys, and hidden nooks. Among them, roads, lanes, and pathways.
All right, that is Brda, an absolutely beautiful and historic place. And I'm dying to go. I've never been there, but I'm dying to go. I'm fascinated with the culture, with the country, the fact that it's known as the green treasure of Europe. It's the wines are absolutely off the charts in terms of quality. But the thing that's amazing, because it's not as famous a region as Italy or France or Spain, everything is very value priced. So these wines tonight will retail for $9 and $10. And so obviously amazing values. I want to say hello to Lakewood, Washington, and Nebraska, and New Jersey, Nantucket. Wow, great crowd. Thank you guys all for tuning in. You're in for a treat, and we're discovering something pretty special. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest, Dan Kaiser, who's the Northeast Regional Manager at Avia Wines. Welcome, Dan. It's great having you on.
Hey, thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about the great wines from Slovenia, especially the little winery that I work for, Brda.
Well, it's great. It's great having you. I have to ask you, where does this broadcast find you? Are you in the hillsides of Slovenia?
I am not. I am actually in and around Annapolis, Maryland, is where I live, and my territory is basically from Massachusetts down to Maryland. So I travel the Northeast for the winery.
Got it. Well, it's great having you. We're fascinated with what Avia Wines has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you, I mean, I'm going to ask everybody watching, hit us in the chat right now if you have had Slovenian wine. I mean, has anybody watching? This is my first time tonight. I have not tasted the wines, Dan, that you sent me. I've left them. They are virgin. We're going to get my immediate reaction to them.
Yeah.
But has anybody had Slovenian wine who's hanging out with us watching? Yeah. Okay. Elizabeth. Carol. Okay. Very good. Oh, Natalie. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, you guys are much more worldly in your wine consumption than I. Susan has as well, but many years ago. Okay. Well, we're going to taste some new taste sensations tonight, Susan. So I have to ask you, Dan, the Kolio wine region.
Yep.
It's really interesting to me, in part because it's sort of this multi-geographical place, meaning that it's got one foot in one country and one foot in another. you told me a story the other day, which I would love for you to relate briefly to the audience about your boss, and specifically about where his grandmother's house in Slovenia, in the Kolio region, is, and then how that location of his grandmother's house has played out in terms of not just geography, but nationality over the last 80 years.
Sure. So when I first started with the company, and most of us, just like yourself, I didn't have a whole lot of Slovenian wine until I joined the company, and now I have Slovenian wine every day, and it's fantastic. We asked the question, well, why Slovenian wine? When I'm out there, telling people about it, and my boss had this great analogy about his grandmother. He goes, his grandmother has lived in the same house for 80 years. And in those 80 years, she has had, whether you want to call it 4 different passports or 4 different, countries that she's lived in without leaving the same house. First, she was part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And then when Mussolini took over, she was Italian. And then she became part of Yugoslavia. And of course, now she's Slovenian. So, it's a crossroads of many different throughout history, whether it's the Greeks or the Romans or whoever, it just changes hands. And what keeps this country together is, the common language. And I think you said it best earlier, Sam, about, they're just so proud of their country, and they're so proud of what they produce, and they just hold together so well. And the wines are just, from my perspective, the wines are as good as any wines in any region.
Well, it's a great story, and I predict you're going to have a very active but fun and fruitful next couple of years as you dive into this. You spent a number of years at a major importer and distributor of Italian wines.
That is correct. I worked for Banfi Vintners for over 4.5 years, and then I actually, I worked with a company called Zamora after Banfi, and I was selling Ramon Bilbao Spanish wines. So I basically have covered the Mediterranean from Spain to Italy to now Slovenia. Yeah.
Well, so, and I think you got a real winner on your hands. So is it because Slovenia is, as a sovereign nation and as its own sort of flag, is so new that people don't know about, or it's sort of a secret so far to a lot of American wine enthusiasts?
I think it's the best wine region that no one's ever heard of. And, our job is, ironically, so let me back up. So these wines were first brought to America in the late 70s by Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola started an import company called Laurietti Imports. And they exchanged, instead of money, they exchanged syrup for wines. So Avia has been in the country for quite a long time. And in 1991, the winery, Brda, purchased from Coca-Cola, the Avia brand and whatnot. So, so it was here for a while, and now, we're trying to build it back up to what once was, and still be a very profitable company. So we're going out there and really selling it the right way, increasing the quality, and making it the wine that everybody should want to drink every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
And why is it that Kolio, as a region within Slovenia, is such a good growing region? I mean, I mentioned a couple things, but I was really scratching the surface. What is it that makes the terroir, the land, the air, the water, why are the grapes and the wine so good?
Starting in Italy, the way the mountains run, it's almost like a horseshoe. And it runs, the horseshoe running, in this case, west to east. And the winds, the temperatures come in from the Adriatic Sea in the day and heat up the land. And at night, the cold air comes down from the Alps into this horseshoe and just holds the temperatures for a great growing region. You want it hot during the day and you want it cool at night, so the sugars, condense. And it just makes such a great growing region, whether it's that Italy or, the Italy part of the Collio and right into the Slovenia.
What was the when you were there? You were just last month. You were in Slovenia.
I was.
It's your first or second month on the job at Avia at Lorietti Imports. What was the most notable, remarkable part of your experience going to Slovenia for the first time ever?
Oh, the absolute natural beauty of it. I haven't been to Colorado yet, but my picture of it is you have these green plains that come right up to these mountains that go 7,000 to 8,000 feet in the air. That are the Alps.
Now, this is a picture. This is a picture here that you took.
Yep, it's a picture I took, and if you notice here, this picture that I took, the grapes are grown on the cliffs, really, of these hillsides, and there's no way to get to those vines except on foot, and to pick the grapes on foot. So everything we do is hand pick and sustainable. It's one of the hallmarks of our brand.
And explain for the wine neophytes and semi-neophytes like me, why is hand picking good?
It allows the vine to essentially naturally grow. After you've picked the grapes, and it doesn't get too thick, and it still just produces really good grapes year after year. It's just a natural. It's just the natural way of doing it.
And you don't get the stems and the seed, as much of the other dreck that can get into the crush. Absolutely,
because everything is hand picked. You don't get the extra stems. You of course have the stems from the grapes itself that you picked off the bunch, but you don't get any of the extra. I call them the more wooden stems, right? The ones that you have a little bark on it, from the grapes and whatnot. It's a much cleaner process when you actually get to the crush part of it.
But bark is bad. We don't want bark.
Bark is bad.
So I want to show a couple of other pictures because it's really stunningly beautiful. You see these hillsides and little towns and castles. You can see in this picture way up in the background.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was an area that you went by, but these are some pictures from.
It's very representative of it because you can see how the vines just go down the hill and they keep going. You didn't even reach the bottom of the hill probably there.
Yeah.
And how the vines just keep going and going down.
And then I thought this one was just striking. When you talk about the little green gem, this really puts a picture to those words.
And like you said, if you look at the in my case to your right of the picture, it probably doesn't even show. It goes downhill after that, all the way down that valley. I'm sure there's grapes going all the way down that valley.
Oh, it looks like it gets a lot steeper right beyond the point of view there. And then I love this. Like, don't forget, this is Europe with ancient history and castles.
Well, that's the Castle Dubrovo. And I don't know my Slovenian history as well as I should, but I'm learning it as I go. But that's in that castle. We actually have one of our barrel rooms inside the castle. It's a cellar that has some of our top quality wines are actually in there. But look above the castle there, and you can see the grapes going down the hill. Those are all vines going down that hill.
I mean, that hill looks like it could be a cliff.
Yep. Yes.
And then these wide shots that really just show kind of the villages and the vistas with in and amongst the hills and the small mountains. This to me is reminiscent. So I'm about to in 2 days get on a plane and go to Barolo on an international wine tour with a group. And this is a little reminiscent of Barolo because you have those hills and villages on top and castles on top of hills and things.
Yeah. Ironically, so if you're going to Italy, if anyone's going to Italy, you would to get to our particular winery, you would fly into Venice, and then it's about a 60-minute drive to the winery into Slovenia.
Right.
So that's not far.
I should have pulled that map for everyone to see, but this for everyone watching, this Slovenia part of Slovenia is just at the northeast edge of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this. So they're, barrel tasting, or I'm not sure what's happening here with the wooden mallet and the hammer, but
Yeah.
and then this is again that shot you can see just to the northeast of the border of Italy there.
Yeah. Our winery is 8 miles. 8 miles outside of the Italy border.
8 miles outside, right? So, yeah, your boss's grandmother had a few different passports over the years.
A few different passports, but it really gives you an idea of, we don't have to. I don't try to get hung up on the region. I just want people to taste the wine, and when you taste the wine, you convert because it's just delicious.
So I have 2 other wine questions, and then I have a non-wine question, which I think will get us back on the wine track. But tell us about orange wine from Slovenia and also sparkling wine.
Okay, so the orange wine is obviously it's not made. It's orange the color, not orange the taste. So it is a high skin contact of grapes that, during the process of fermentation that gives it its really orange color. And it's our particular one is made from 3 different grapes. It's made from the local grape called Rebula, Malvasia, and Chardonnay. So they combine those 3 grapes, and it's just a terrific. But it's this really complex, really eclectic. It's got a lot going on in the wine, and if you get a chance to taste it in orange wine from Slovenia, it is really, really good and really complex. If you're into that.
Yeah, and I'll probably butcher this, but for anyone watching who doesn't know sort of the provenance of orange wine, it's when white wine grapes are crushed, and then the fermentation over 2 or 3 weeks, the skins stay in the mash. It's this maceration of just skins and juice and everything. Normally, wine there's a press process where the skins are strained out, even with white wine. In this case, orange wine is white wine grapes that get crushed, and the skins stay in for the maceration and the fermentation for 2 or 3 weeks, and then the skins are pulled out or filtered out through the pressing process. So it's super interesting, and I have to admit I'm not a big expert on orange wine in terms of selections and which ones are great, but I'm very interested to taste these based on what you've shared.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the other day a sparkling wine that you said which just absolutely knocked your socks off.
Yeah. So this, I don't know, with the backgrounds and everything, this is our sparkling Rebula. And once again, it's the local Slovenian grape is Rebula. And it's a traditional method of making a sparkling wine. And it's very crisp. It's got a little bit of yeasty, taste to it. It is just a really nice sparkling wine to have with any kind of food. But if you are Prosecco'd out, please go find it, because it is just wonderful. And it's right around the same price point as Prosecco as well. Should run you somewhere in between $12 to $17, depending on the state.
Wow, great value. So how do you spell that one, Dan?
In this case, it's the Slovenian word for sparkling. So it's Penaka, P-E-N-E-C-A, Rebula. So it's sparkling Rebula.
Yep.
I just hold that back up again.
I put it in the chat for everyone to see.
Yeah.
There's 2 C's in Penaka for everyone who's watching. So yeah, great.
And ours, there's only 1.
Oh, okay. Then I got it right.
Only 1. You got it right, actually.
I got it right. Excellent.
Yep, you got it right.
All right. Last thing, non-wine question that kind of leads us to a wine answer.
Yeah.
What is the most unusual thing you've ever seen, done, or experienced in the wine industry?
Well, it's something that you only find in the old country. And it's the first time I saw it. I saw it in Italy when I was visiting wineries in Emilia-Romagna. And then I saw it again at our winery at Brda, is that these cooperative farmers. So Brda is a cooperative farm, a cooperative business. It's 400 farmers, cultivating about 1,000 hectares. And they will come in and fill up their jugs of wine and take them home. So it's sort of like wine on tap. So in Emiliano-Romagna, it looked like a gas pump. And then you'd come in and they'd fill up their Lambrusco in their jug. And so it's the only place I've seen it is in the old country, where they have these, basically you come in and fill up your wine jugs right out of the barrels.
So here we are it's on the screen. We're at the wine station here.
Yep. And I took that at the winery just about a month ago.
So they fill up, they come in and they fill up, and in some cases they pay. In other cases, if they're part of the farmers cooperative, they don't even pay, and they take their jug home. And that's the wine for the next couple of days at home.
Yes, that's the way I understand it. Especially, like I said, in Emiliano-Romagna, the farmers never paid. I'm not sure at our particular winery, but they never, the farmers, they were allowed to come in and fill up, in this case, their Lambrusco all the time.
Yeah. So interesting. All right. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm ready to start tasting these wines.
Yeah.
So what are the wines we are tasting from Avia Wines today?
So the 4 wines that we are tasting today is our Pinot Grigio, our Chardonnay, our Pinot Noir, and our Cabernet Sauvignon.
Excellent.
3 out of 4 of those are ones that got the best buy out of wine enthusiasts.
And so with the Pinot Grigio,
Mm-hmm.
I've got my glass here.
I got mine too.
Tell us a little bit about this in terms of the tasting notes. I'll give you my first impressions, and also maybe something that's a particularly good pairing of food with this wine.
So this Pinot Grigio. Well, actually, you know what? This is your first time tasting, Sam. I'm going to let you, and I'll fill in. And I'm going to put you on the spot on this one.
I mean, I'm getting like a really nice citrus in the aromatics. The color is a super nice light, not too pale yellow. And I definitely get some citrus aromatics, a little bit of stone fruit.
Citrus, little white pear, maybe.
Yeah.
Little pear.
That's delicious.
Lemon zest. It's got a little bit of body, but it's very crisp. It's something for a hot day for sure. You're drinking on the back porch. It is just wonderful. It is our number 1 SKU in the US.
Yep.
And it just over delivers for the price point that it's at. There's just no doubt about it.
I think this is, and I'm not being hyperbolic, this might be the most perfectly balanced white wine I've had all year long.
It's terrific. I mean, I tasted it at the New York City Wine and Food Festival, and I had people coming back up and going, "Wait a minute, that's Pinot Grigio?" That's I don't get any of that. And people had a variety of things. I don't get the water out. It doesn't. I didn't get the lemon zest in the front and just watered out. You're telling me how much is this, and I'm like, it's about $8 or $9 a bottle, and they're like, no way, and so it's just a great Pinot Grigio. It's absolutely delicious. There is none better.
I almost think it's unfair to call it a Pinot Grigio because it's so balanced and the acidity is so light. Yep. Acidity is good when it's balanced, but if it's too much, you're puckered up and it's a lot of citrus. But this has, like you said, it has that pear. It's got the lemon zest. What's
the alcohol goes all the way through it, right?
Yeah, and the length is there. It's got great length.
Yeah, and if you're going to pair this, you asked what you're going to pair it with. You're going to pair it with your salads, and you're going to pair it with your pastas, especially a cream sauce kind of pasta. You can certainly do it with the shellfish as well. It'll go well with shellfish. Not as good as the Sauvignon Blanc, but the acidity is there to go with a shellfish if you need to.
What's the alcohol by volume on this?
That's 12.5.
My goodness, it's so light. It feels like I could drink a whole bottle of this and not feel a thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's so light and crisp. And when you tell people it's 12.5 to 13, they're like, "Wow," So
yeah,
it's
gotta
great.
be careful.
to have a sip of mine as well.
Quick question from Myra. Is it sold in New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania?
All three. Pennsylvania is our number one state. New York, it's sold by Southern Wine and Spirits, and I was just there. So it's just a matter if you're, and I'll say this a lot, if your favorite liquor store doesn't have it, just ask for it, and they will get it on their next order. I am both in upstate and downstate New York. New York is especially upstate's a big market.
I wasn't supposed to finish the pour that I made for the tasting, but yeah. I'm going to.
Yeah, Jersey's and we do a tremendous amount of cases in New Jersey as well.
That is just, it's got a nice fruitiness to it too. That's awesome.
It's the citrus, right? It's just not lemon zest. It's got some citrus to it, you know.
It's even more complex than just lemon zest.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. The Chardonnay, Avia Chardonnay. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Avia
Chardonnay. Mostly steel fermented, yeah?
Mostly steel, 80% steel fermented. And then the other 20% is, and I want to get this right, so I'm going to look down on my sheet here. It's 20% oak in a French barrique for a year. So you do get, when I taste it, I get not only the fruit, of the Chardonnay, I get some, the apple and a little bit of pear, but at the end, I do get a little bit of oak. And
I get a nice little bit of oak in the nose, in the aromatics.
Yep. You get the fruit.
And I get just a light touch of oak.
Yep, it's there, but it's not an oak bomb and it's not a butter bomb. It's really the way the winemaker designed this is that it did want to have a little bit of the fruit taste, no question.
Yeah.
Without there's no butter, at all in that. So it's a lot closer to a 100% steel product than it is to an oaky product. But once again, you do get a little hint of oak.
No, this one is also really balanced, and it's also light. What's the alcohol volume on the Chardonnay?
Let's see, you're going to have to actually look at this one because my back label didn't come off. You have
all right. Let me grab my bottle. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's also 12.5.
12 and a half. Yep.
12 and a half. This one has got a nice darker yellow color. Clearly that comes a little bit from the 20% of oak aged Chardonnay that gets blended in.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe the winemaker wanted to make sure there was enough body, to go with any dish that you want this to go with, a nice poultry dish, even a nice pork dish, roasted pork, not necessarily heavy spiced pork dish.
Right. Now this would go great with fettuccine Alfredo, cacio e pepe pasta. So it's terrific. Very nice. Also great balance. I mean, that's the thing that's striking me. It's my first time tasting Slovenian wine. The balance on these first two wines is extraordinary. Mm-hmm. Good length, but just all balanced all the way through. All right, so the next one is the Pinot Noir, which I've not had. I didn't know that the region was a Pinot Noir producer, but evidently yes.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, this is the 25% of the wines coming out of Slovenia that are red.
Yep.
What are the notes in the background on this one?
The notes in the background of this is I get lots and lots of dark fruit. I get lots of black cherry. I get some red cherry with strawberries, but
look, kind of a combination.
It's not a cherry bomb. I get some red plum a little bit,
Yeah, combination of red fruit and black fruit on this one.
Yep, no question. I think it's very complex. I think it has, for a Pinot Noir, it's light but has body. You're tasting it right now.
Yeah.
it, it's
It's
my
got-
favorite red. I mean, it's between them and the Cab, and we're going to taste the Cab next. But I love the way this Pinot Noir, and when people taste, I'm out at a retailer, they're like, "Oh, I can sell that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. If somebody picks that up, they're coming back for that. You know,
This is
because
a
it's
Pinot
going to.
Noir. It has the lightness and the finesse of a Pinot Noir, but it's got some horsepower.
Yes, but there's no question. It's got some horsepower to it. Very complex. It's complex.
Yeah, no, really nice. I'm even getting a little bit of, secondary flavors and aromas of like a little bit of leather. It's black cherry for sure, like those primary flavors. But it's definitely complex.
Little touch of spice too. Just a
Yep.
little hint.
Teeny bit of black pepper.
Yeah, just ever so enough to, like, if you're going to pair this once again with, burger night, or you're going to or like just a light little sirloin that you're going to put on, not a high fat meat, it's going to go extremely well with this. And the fruit is not so overpowering that you're going to get cherry and it's going to drown out, your dish.
Yeah, it's not a fruit bomb at all.
No. And one of the things we do well is we don't do it. Nothing's a fruit forward wine that's so fruit forward. You're like, oh, wow, this is just, hit you in the palate. All our wines are designed to go with food. And I think the Pinot Noir, it's not even a question. It's my favorite red.
So what's the food this is your favorite red from Avia. What's the food you like to pair with this Pinot Noir?
For me, it's like a sirloin or a roast, not a roast, a grilled like pork chop, with some spice to it.
Yep.
Whether I put some paprika on there or a little black pepper on there. I think it pairs perfect with those kind of dishes, grilled. It'll certainly go with a seafood dish as well if you wanted to, like a salmon. Like you want a fish with a little more oil to it, like a salmon.
So you know what I would pair this with, and I agree with what you just said. Lighter grilled meats and sirloin, that type of thing. I would pair this with a tuna steak au poivre.
Ah, there you go. So right. So you got that pepper, right? Au poivre, right?
Yep.
And you're cooking it medium rare, and you're going to have those grill flavors, and it's going to go extremely well with that. In fact, now I'm going to have to go get myself a tuna
Next
steak.
time you're up in New York, we'll get some tuna steaks and we'll make some tuna au poivre and have the Avia Pinot Noir.
It'll be delicious.
A couple of notes from folks in the chat. Do you distribute to Washington State?
Yes. Yes, we do. We have a distributor out there. I just can't. I saw that earlier, and I could not think of the distributor that we have out there. But yes, absolutely. And obviously, they're more centered around the western part of the state. But certainly, I think somebody was from Tacoma. They do deliver out to Tacoma. Sure. And Spokane. I'm sorry. And they do deliver out to Spokane.
I think the person who asked that is also a wine retailer. So if you want to put your email in the chat and have him reach out to you, Harry, you can email Dan.
Sure. And I will get that. I actually spent some time with them, and it may even come to me who the distributor was.
And then we have a couple of other questions about getting these wines.
Yep.
Because when you have people praising them this highly, everyone says, well, where can I get that? Which is a very, very reasonable and logical response.
Yep.
Natalie has a question. Could not order from New York to Nebraska. Is there a way to get it in Nebraska, either shipped to or bought in Nebraska?
Good question. One that I cannot answer at this moment. We have a tremendous amount. We saw a lot of cases in Colorado, of course. So if there's a retailer in Colorado that ships, we can get it that way. So, but I will answer your question.
I just put your email in for anybody who wants to find
Yep.
out. Dan
Yep.
can definitely hook you up. Carol has some feedback for your webmaster. If Laureate can put the stores on their website, it would help. Okay.
It's a lot of stores, but we could try.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all and we got to get all that information from the distributors, which they're not always willing to share.
Now, Dan, you have a Riesling, yeah?
I do have a Riesling, actually. Yes.
Is it a dry Riesling or an off-dry Riesling?
It's an off-dry Riesling. Yes, it has just this hint of sugar to it, but it's not a sugar bomb at all.
So, Myra, if you like an off-dry Riesling, this is the place.
Yeah.
It's
probably got, well, hold on. Let me see if I have it on the sheet here. The amount of sugar on that Riesling. Yeah, I don't really. I would guess it's 1 or 2% sugar.
Got it. So
Yeah.
So it's light off dry, but
Yeah.
Myra just said that she's interested in a dry. So
Yeah. It's not 100% dry. It is not.
yeah. And then I'm going to answer this question from Susan. These seem to be wines that you drink straight away now rather than lay them down and age them. And I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Drink them now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. We have one more to go, which is the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yep.
So tell me about this one. I actually didn't, and thank you so much for sending me the samples, Dan. I didn't get the Cabernet. I know that the warehouse didn't have it at the time.
Yeah.
But if you could walk us through this one, I'm sure it's got a little bit more oomph and body than the Pinot Noir.
Actually, it does have a little bit more body, but not drastically so, because it's a made for drinking every day kind of wine. It's a little more complex. It has a little bit more body, but not a whole lot. Once again, I get wonderful, black fruit again. I get blackberry, I get currant, but I get a much bigger spice profile, much more of a spice profile with this particular cab. Once again, not a fruit forward wine at all. I like to call them old school cabs.
Yep.
That before they became all fruit forward out of Napa and whatnot, it's made to go with your food. And this one holds up right there with whatever meat you want to have, whether you want to have filet or whether you want to have ribeye, prime rib, it's going to hold up with that for sure.
So this is a slightly random question for you, but maybe you can shed some light on it. If there are 28,000 wineries, I mean, in a country that's only 8,000 square miles, there are 28,000 wineries.
Yeah.
Is it a place where we could go and as great as Avia is a commercial producer and a great winery.
Yep.
Is it a place where you could go and make the rounds to smaller wineries and just sort of explore?
Well, in Brda alone, it's just not us. There are several other wineries just in Brda alone. I once again, being new, I don't know all my Slovenian culture at this point. But if there's that many, they have to extend into the good growing regions for sure.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I mean, that's a huge number of wineries. I mean, Dan, in the state of California, which has a tremendous number of wineries, there's 7,000 wineries.
Yeah. Italy's got something like 40,000 wineries.
I mean, for Slovenia to have 28,000, I mean, that must include Uncle Oleg, who makes half a barrel of wine every year.
Yeah, very well good. Very well good.
But I mean, wow.
Yeah.
And who knew? I mean, this is something that most American wine consumers are not aware of.
Yeah. Our little winery produces about 7 million liters alone. Right. Which is about 750 to 800,000 cases, depending on the year.
And that's a serious amount of volume.
That's a serious winery right there.
How much of that goes to the US versus other parts of the world?
I had that information. I believe 25 to 30% come to America, but don't hold me to that exact number.
Probably a fairly decent chunk goes to Asia.
It is by far their largest export market is the US.
But then there's probably a decent chunk that goes to the continental Europe nations as well as Asia.
And well as Asia. Yeah. We definitely have a presence in Asia as well.
Well, this has been an education in all things Slovenian wine. I want to thank you for hanging out with us.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to go have some more Asiago and cheddar cheese with my Pinot Grigio. Oh my God, that was so delicious.
Yeah.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining us. We will not be back next week. I'm going to be trekking through the hillsides of Piemonte, or Piedmont, as we say in English, in Italy. And then we'll be back the week of November 10th. And we'll be profiling a very interesting Long Island winery in early November 10th. So thank you guys for joining us. Dan, thank you so much for doing this. It's great to see you again. And
thank you so much.
Spectacular. I love them.
Appreciate it.
Excellent.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I look forward to, next time we'll take one of our other brands, and we'll explore those.
I would love to do one with one of the other brands because Dan, by the way, for everybody watching, Dan has some brands that are slightly more elevated, beautiful wines. And actually next time, Dan, we're going to ask you to speak at least one sentence in Slovenian.
I will do that. I will need some coaching, but I will do that for you.
I'm sure you can. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Be well. Thank you.